The Orks are one of the most chaotic, anarchic, and destructive forces in the universe of Warhammer 40k, driven by an insatiable thirst for war and destruction. They are creatures of violence, reveling in the joy of battle and conquest, with little regard for the finer details of strategy or long-term goals. The Emperor, on the other hand, is the leader of the Imperium of Man, a being of unimaginable power, intellect, and purpose. Someone who exists to bring unity to humanity, to safeguard the future of mankind, and to wage an endless battle against the dark forces that threaten the galaxy. He is the ultimate figure of order, law, and civilization. So it is both perplexing and fascinating that the Orks, in their seemingly mindless pursuit of battle, have such a curious reverence for him. Why is it that they, of all races, seem to hold a deep, almost religious respect for the Emperor? The answer to this mystery lies within the very nature of the Orks themselves. To understand why they like the Emperor so much, we must first take a deep look into what makes them tick: their psychology, their psychic field, their culture, and their history. It is a story not of rational thought, but of belief, power, and the unspoken connection that forms between two vastly different beings in the galaxy. The Emperor may be humanity's greatest protector, but to the Orks, he is something much more, a figure of pure, unadulterated strength, a figure who embodies everything they admire and seek to emulate. This paradoxical relationship is a testament to the strange and unpredictable nature of the grimdark universe in which they live. Let's begin with understanding the nature of the Orks themselves, and how it is that a race known for its chaotic, violent tendencies could harbor any admiration for such an ordered figure as the Emperor. Orks are not like humans, and they certainly are not like the myriad other races that populate the galaxy. Their minds work in strange and unpredictable ways, driven more by belief and sheer willpower than any form of logical reasoning. They are not bound by the constraints of conventional thought, nor do they adhere to the same structures of morality or hierarchy that define other species. Instead, the Ork psyche is shaped by something far more primal, an innate drive for dominance, destruction, and the collective power of belief. Orks do not have the same kind of intellect that other races possess. Their minds operate on a raw, instinctual level, where strength, power, and belief are the guiding forces that shape their actions. This belief-driven mindset is not just a casual trait. It is a defining characteristic of Ork culture. Orks are a race driven by what could best be described as faith in the idea of power. They believe in the strength of the strongest, in the superiority of the loudest and most violent. When they see a figure like the Emperor, someone with unimaginable power, they instinctively recognize him as a being to be admired and followed, not necessarily because they understand his role in the grand scheme of things, or because they see him as a protector of humanity, but because the Emperor embodies everything the Orks value most: raw, unstoppable strength. To Orks, belief is power. This is evident in the way they interact with their environment, and even with the very weapons they wield. An Ork gun, for example, is not a sophisticated piece of technology in the way human-made weapons are. It is a crude, haphazard construction made of scavenged parts and slapped together without concern for aesthetics or function. However, an Ork does not see it as a broken weapon. It works because they believe it will. The belief in the weapon's power makes it function, and this same principle extends to how they view the Emperor. The Orks do not need to fully understand the Emperor's true purpose or the nuances of his existence. What matters is that they believe in him as a figure of supreme power, and that belief fuels their respect for him. This unshakable belief also manifests in the Orks' incredible resilience. Orks are tough, almost unnaturally so. They can survive wounds that would kill most other creatures, and they have an almost supernatural ability to regenerate from injuries that would cripple lesser beings. This resilience is tied directly to their belief in themselves, The more they believe they can accomplish something, the more likely it is that they will succeed. In many ways, their entire society is built around this fundamental understanding of belief as a source of strength. The Emperor, as a being of immense power, taps into the same source of energy that the Orks rely on for their survival and success. He is a godlike figure to them, not in the way that human religions view their deities, but as a being who represents the ultimate form of belief, belief in strength, dominance, and power. In short, the Orks' reverence for the Emperor is not rooted in any traditional understanding of leadership or civilization. It is not about shared values or ideologies. It is about power. The Emperor is the embodiment of that power, and to the Orks, he is worthy of admiration because he is a being who represents the peak of what they themselves seek to achieve. His power, like theirs, is derived from belief, and that is what makes him an object of reverence in the eyes of the Orks. But the Emperor's connection to the Orks goes deeper than just a shared understanding of power. The very fabric of Ork existence, their psychic field known as the Waaagh, links them to the Emperor in ways that are both mysterious and profound. To truly understand why the Orks like the Emperor, we must delve into the strange and chaotic nature of this field and how it shapes the Ork worldview. At the heart of Ork society lies the Waaagh, an almost mystical force that shapes their behavior, drives their actions, and binds them together. The Waaagh is a psychic field, an energy that flows through the minds of every Ork, amplifying their thoughts and desires, creating a collective force that is greater than the sum of its parts. It is a chaotic, unpredictable energy that both empowers and defines the Orks, making them far more dangerous than their crude weaponry and erratic tactics would suggest. What is especially interesting about the Waaagh is that it is fueled by belief. The collective conviction of the Ork race that what they imagine, what they desire, can become reality. In many ways, the Waaagh is a living, breathing thing, a field of energy that exists outside the normal boundaries of physical space. It is tied directly to the Orks' collective consciousness, and it manifests itself in ways that are difficult to comprehend. When Orks believe something will happen, when they believe that their plan will succeed, or that their guns will fire, or that they will win a fight, the Waaagh amplifies that belief and makes it more likely to occur. The Waaagh is both a literal and metaphorical force, one that is built on the strength of Ork belief, their shared desire to see destruction and chaos spread across the galaxy. The Emperor's connection to this force is far more significant than many might realize. While the Emperor is not an Ork, and while he does not directly influence the Waaagh in the way the Orks themselves do, there is a certain resonance between the Emperor's own power and the energy of the Waaagh. The Emperor, as a being of unfathomable psychic might, embodies the ultimate form of strength and conviction. His very existence exudes power, and this power is felt by the Orks in ways that are difficult to explain. In the Ork mind, the Emperor is a larger-than-life figure who represents the ultimate boss, the being at the top of the hierarchy. He is the one whose strength is undeniable, whose power is unchallenged, and in that sense, the Emperor is both a source of inspiration and a focal point for the Waaagh itself. The connection between the Emperor and the Waaagh also manifests in the way the Orks fight. The more Orks that gather together in one place, the stronger the Waaagh becomes. It is as if the collective belief of the Ork race amplifies itself, creating a tidal wave of psychic energy that fuels their desire to fight, to conquer, and to destroy. This is why the Orks are often so successful in battle, despite their lack of strategy or coordination. When enough of them gather, the Waaagh becomes a force unto itself, pushing them forward with a kind of reckless, unrelenting energy. The Emperor, as a figure who commands incredible psychic power, is part of this larger web of cosmic forces that influences the Waaagh. Whether he knows it or not, his existence has an impact on the Orks and their belief-driven existence. In a sense, the Emperor's power may even be feeding into the Waaagh. The Orks' connection to the Emperor is not a passive one. They are actively drawing power from his presence, from his belief in strength, and from the psychic fields that surround him. This may explain why the Orks view the Emperor not just as a figure to be revered, but as one to be challenged, to be tested in battle. To the Orks, the Emperor is a reflection of their own ideals, a being who embodies the power they wish to achieve. The more they clash with him, the more they prove their own strength, and the stronger the Waaagh becomes. Thus, the Emperor's connection to the Orks is not just one of admiration or respect, it is one of mutual influence. The Emperor's very existence as a being of immense power resonates within the Waaagh, creating a link between him and the Ork race that is both spiritual and psychic in nature. The Orks may not understand this connection on a conscious level, but it shapes their worldview and their relationship with the Emperor in profound ways. It is not just a respect for strength that drives them to like him. It is a recognition that, in some strange and inexplicable way, the Emperor's power is part of the energy that fuels their own existence. The Emperor then becomes more than just a foe to be defeated. He becomes a figure that is woven into the very fabric of Ork identity. But it doesn't stop there. The Orks, in their simplistic yet brutal culture, would never stop at just respecting the Emperor. They would elevate him to the status of a god, as they do with all powerful figures. And in this way, the Emperor's role in Ork religion and culture becomes even more fascinating. The Orks' view of the Emperor may be strange, but it is rooted in their deep-seated need to find meaning in their chaotic existence. To understand the Orks' reverence for the Emperor, we must explore how he fits into their religious structure and cultural ideals. The Orks are not a people who follow traditional religious structures, but they do have a deep, almost instinctual belief in powerful figures. To them, the most important thing is power. The bigger, the better. This is why they worship not gods in the traditional sense, but the embodiment of strength itself. The Ork gods, Gork and Mork, are the prime examples of this. These gods are a reflection of the Ork psyche, the ultimate figures of physical might and cunning. Gork is the god of brutal strength and the joy of smashing things, while Mork represents the more cunning, sneaky side of Ork behavior. Together, they are the quintessential Ork gods, representing both the violent and the clever aspects of Ork culture. But the Emperor, despite not being one of the Ork gods, shares much in common with Gork and Mork. In fact, some theories suggest that the Emperor and Gork and Mork are more closely related than we might think. Some Ork shamans even believe that the Emperor is a new incarnation of one of the two gods. This is a fascinating idea, one that ties into the idea that the Emperor's power and psychic presence could resonate with the Ork gods in some way. If the Orks are right, then the Emperor might be seen as a third god in their pantheon, a being who embodies not just strength, but a sense of grand purpose, the ultimate leader, the one they can look up to as the greatest war boss in the galaxy. For the Orks, the Emperor's very existence seems to fit perfectly into their religious framework. The Emperor is, in their eyes, the ultimate war boss, the most powerful creature in the galaxy, and his very presence commands respect. The Ork race is obsessed with the concept of leadership and power. They form mobs and tribes under the banner of the strongest Ork, and they follow whoever seems to be the most capable of smashing their enemies and winning battles. This is how they view the Emperor. He is the supreme war boss, the one who is strong enough to command the entire human race. He is a figure that they instinctively revere, not because they understand the intricacies of his goals, but because he represents everything they aspire to be. There's also an interesting parallel between the way the Orks view their war bosses and the way humanity views the Emperor. Ork war bosses are revered in much the same way that the Emperor is adored by the human masses, albeit with a few key differences. Ork war bosses are often not chosen for their wisdom, but for their ability to lead through sheer force of personality and might. The Orks do not follow anyone who is weak, only the strongest, the most brutal, and the most capable of conquering their enemies. In this way, they view the Emperor as the ultimate war boss, a leader who commands the galaxy through sheer force and power. In their minds, the Emperor has the qualities that make a good war boss. He is strong, he is commanding, and he is always ready for a fight. To the Orks, these are the qualities that define true leadership, and it is why they are drawn to him as a figure of reverence. They do not see the Emperor in terms of human morality or the grand vision of the Imperium. They see him as a figure of pure might, someone who stands at the top of the pyramid of strength and who deserves their respect simply because he is the strongest. The Emperor is the ultimate boss in the Ork worldview, and in a way he becomes an object of worship because he embodies everything that they hold dear. This is why the Emperor is not just a figure to be respected. He is someone to be revered in a way that transcends the normal understanding of leadership. The Emperor represents the pinnacle of Ork values. He is a godlike figure, not in the sense of benevolence or compassion, but in the sense that he is the epitome of power and strength. This is why Ork war bosses will often speak of the Emperor in awe, as if he is the ultimate being they could ever hope to challenge. It is not just a matter of simple admiration. It is a deep, fundamental respect for a being who has reached the peak of power and control. This worship of the Emperor goes beyond mere respect. It is a recognition that the Emperor is, in some sense, a reflection of the Orks themselves. He embodies the very ideals that they strive for: strength, dominance, and an unrelenting drive to conquer. The Orks may not understand the Emperor's true purpose in the grand scheme of things, but they understand what he represents: the ultimate war boss, the greatest of all conquerors. And in that, they see a kindred spirit, a figure who is as untouchable and unstoppable as they themselves wish to be. The Emperor's role in Ork culture, then, is not just that of an adversary. It is that of a figure who embodies the Orks' own ideals of power and dominance. His very existence is a testament to the strength they crave, and it is this that makes them gravitate toward him in a strange, almost spiritual way. The Emperor may not be one of the Ork gods, but to them he is as close as it gets. And this connection, however bizarre, speaks to the strange, mysterious relationship that the Orks share with the Emperor. The Emperor's connection to the Orks goes even deeper than just being a symbol of power. As much as the Orks admire and respect him for his strength, the Emperor is also tied to their very creation. The Orks, in their simple yet brutal minds, do not see themselves as a race born of necessity or random chance. Instead, they believe their existence has a purpose. They see themselves as warriors created for one singular reason: to fight, and in a strange twist of fate, the Emperor, through his actions, has played a pivotal role in their creation, even if he was not directly responsible for it. Orks were not always the way they are today. In their earliest days, they were a race of hyper-intelligent beings, the Krorks, who were scattered across the galaxy. The Emperor, in his infinite wisdom, sought to create the perfect soldier, an army capable of standing against the terrors of the galaxy and defending humanity. To do so, he employed a number of genetic experiments, manipulating DNA to create the mighty Astartes, the Emperor's space marines. However, as with many of his plans, things did not go entirely as expected. The experiments resulted in the creation of the Orks, beings that were more unpredictable and chaotic than the Emperor had anticipated. But even though the Orks were not the Emperor's intended creation, there are echoes of his design in them. The Orks' inherent love for fighting, their ability to regenerate from seemingly fatal wounds, and their almost supernatural resilience can be traced back to the Emperor's genetic tinkering. In a sense, the Emperor unknowingly seeded the Ork race as part of his broader design to create a powerful force in the galaxy, just not the one he intended. The Orks were born from a twisted reflection of the Emperor's own desire for strength and resilience, and this connection, whether intentional or not, has left an indelible mark on Ork society. In the Orks' eyes, the Emperor's role in their creation is not a mistake, nor is it something to be regretted. Instead, they view it as another confirmation of the Emperor's power. To them, the fact that the Emperor's experiments gave rise to a race as tough and unstoppable as they are speaks to his immense might. If the Emperor had intended to create the ultimate soldiers, it is almost fitting that Orks, with their inherent toughness and ability to fight without end, would be part of that legacy. The Emperor may not have intended to create them, but in the Ork mindset, his influence is all-encompassing. It is as though their very existence is a tribute to his power, whether or not he recognizes it. Moreover, the Orks' genetic makeup is another reason they feel a connection to the Emperor. The Orks are, in essence, an imperfect reflection of the Emperor's own creations, the Space Marines. Both are genetically enhanced super soldiers, although the Emperor's perfect vision came to fruition in the form of his Astartes. In a strange, almost tragic way, the Orks see themselves as a distorted mirror image of humanity's greatest warriors. They may not be the Emperor's perfect soldiers, but they are soldiers nonetheless. The Orks see this as something to be proud of, even if it is far from the Emperor's original intent. This connection between the Emperor and the Orks becomes even more significant when we consider the Orks' constant need to prove themselves in battle. The Emperor, through his own actions, has inadvertently created the ultimate opponent for the Orks, someone who challenges them in ways no other force in the galaxy can. To the Orks, this is not a negative thing. In fact, it is the opposite. It is the challenge they crave, the battle they need. They see the Emperor as the perfect adversary, a being whose strength and resilience match their own, and whose resistance to their rampages only serves to fuel their desire to fight harder, to prove themselves stronger. The Emperor, in their eyes, is not just a godlike figure to be worshipped. He is the ultimate war boss, the final test of their might. This paradoxical relationship, where the Orks both admire and seek to defeat the Emperor, speaks to the very heart of Ork culture. They live for battle, and they live for the thrill of conflict. The Emperor, in his steadfast opposition to their endless wars, provides them with the ultimate source of conflict, a figure whose strength challenges them to be better, to fight harder, to push the limits of their own abilities. It is through this struggle that the Orks find meaning, purpose, and, in a twisted way, fulfillment. In the end, the Emperor's influence on the Orks is not just a matter of genetic manipulation or power. It is a testament to the strange, unpredictable, and chaotic nature of the Ork psyche. The Emperor represents everything the Orks admire and fear: strength, resilience, and an unyielding desire to fight. His very existence serves as both an inspiration and a challenge, pushing them to greater heights of destruction and proving that, even in their madness, the Orks are always striving towards something greater. Whether they view him as a god, a war boss, or just the ultimate opponent, the Emperor is a central figure in their chaotic world, one that they can never fully defeat, but can never stop striving to surpass. For the Orks, the Emperor represents a paradoxical force of unity and division. As a species, Orks are naturally anarchic, with no centralized leadership or unified goals beyond the pursuit of endless war. The idea of following a single leader, especially one outside of their own mob hierarchy, seems almost alien to them. And yet, despite their inherent chaos and love for independence, they are drawn to the Emperor in a way that transcends the usual patterns of Ork behavior. This connection to the Emperor is not just about admiration or respect. It is about something deeper. It is about the struggle for supremacy, the quest to prove themselves worthy of the title of the strongest. The Emperor, as a being who embodies the ultimate power, is seen by the Orks as the perfect challenge, one that they must either overcome or continue to clash with in an endless cycle of war. The Emperor's role in the Ork psyche is complicated by the fact that the Orks, as a species, do not think in terms of loyalty or devotion the way humans do. They are not bound by oaths, covenants, or noble ideals. Orks follow the strongest, the most powerful figure in their proximity, and only for as long as that figure can prove their worth. This is why Ork war bosses are always striving to prove themselves in battle, because leadership in Ork society is constantly in flux, determined by strength and the ability to dominate. The Emperor, despite being a figure far beyond their reach, is the ultimate symbol of this kind of power. To the Orks, he is not a distant ruler or a god. They do not care for human concepts like governance or religion. The Emperor is simply the strongest, the biggest war boss of them all, and that is why they are drawn to him. They recognize in him the qualities that define a true war boss: strength, leadership, and the ability to crush all who stand in the way. But this respect for the Emperor is not one-sided. While the Orks may view the Emperor as the greatest of all war bosses, they also recognize that they, too, are a powerful force in the galaxy. Their endless wars, their rampages across worlds, are a testament to their own strength and resilience. To the Orks, their battles against the Emperor and his Imperium are not just fights for survival. They are opportunities to prove that they, too, can challenge the greatest of leaders and come out on top. In their minds, every victory, every skirmish with the Imperium is another step toward proving that they are the true masters of the galaxy. The Emperor is their rival, the one who stands in the way of their ultimate conquest, but he is also their inspiration, the one they strive to defeat. In this way, the Emperor becomes not just a symbol of opposition, but a figure that drives the Orks to reach greater heights of destruction. This is where the true beauty of the Ork-Emperor relationship lies. The Orks do not see the Emperor as an enemy in the traditional sense. They do not view him as someone to be hated or feared. Instead, they see him as a worthy opponent, someone whose strength demands their respect. To the Orks, the Emperor represents the pinnacle of what they can achieve, the embodiment of power and leadership that they themselves crave. They admire him for his ability to rule the galaxy and crush all who oppose him, but at the same time, they seek to surpass him, to prove that they too can be the strongest, the greatest leaders in the galaxy. In this strange, twisted way, the Orks and the Emperor are bound together by a shared desire for supremacy, a desire that fuels their never-ending war. As time passes, the Orks' relationship with the Emperor may evolve in unexpected ways. While they continue to view him as a challenge, a symbol of the ultimate war boss, there is also the potential for the Emperor's influence to shape their culture in ways that are difficult to predict. The Emperor's psychic presence may, over time, become a central part of Ork belief, further cementing his status as a figure of reverence. The Orks may even come to see him as a divine figure, a god whose power transcends their own. If this happens, the Emperor's role in Ork society could shift from that of a mere war boss to something far more profound, a god who is worshipped and followed by Ork mobs across the galaxy. Ultimately, the Emperor's connection to the Orks is a complex and multifaceted one. It is a relationship built on respect, rivalry, and a shared love for battle. The Emperor is the greatest of all war bosses, a figure whose power commands the Orks' admiration and whose existence drives them to greater acts of destruction. But at the same time, the Orks are not content to simply worship him from afar. They want to challenge him, to prove that they too can be the greatest. The Emperor may be their rival, their god, or simply the most powerful being they have ever encountered. But one thing is certain: the Orks and the Emperor are eternally intertwined in a cycle of war, a cycle that may never end. As long as the Emperor exists, the Orks will continue to look up to him as the ultimate figure of strength, and at the same time, they will continue to strive to surpass him, to be the greatest in the galaxy. It is this paradox, this strange connection between the Emperor and the Orks that makes their relationship so captivating, and as the galaxy burns and the Waaagh rages across the stars, the Emperor's influence on the Orks will continue to be felt, even if they never fully understand why they are drawn to him. To the Orks, he is both an adversary and a symbol of what they can become. Whether they view him as a god, a war boss, or a figure to be challenged, the Emperor remains an integral part of Ork life, an eternal test of their strength and their desire for supremacy. The Emperor's influence on the Orks is not merely limited to their immediate connection to him as a powerful warlord and a godlike figure of respect. The Emperor, despite his most likely unintentional role in shaping the Ork race, has had a far-reaching effect on their culture, psyche, and long-term evolution. There is a fascinating possibility that the Emperor, through his creation of the Astartes and his shaping of humanity's future, has indirectly created a space for the Orks to develop into something even greater than they are now. They are more than just a race of genetically engineered warriors. They are the ultimate test for the Imperium's ideals of strength, order, and dominion. It's essential to reflect on the broader implications of the Emperor's legacy and how it can influence not only humanity, but the Orks as well. The Orks, through their primal connection to the Emperor, are capable of shaping their own destiny. Unlike the other races of the galaxy, whose fates are often determined by complex politics, the Orks are born with the singular purpose of fighting, and fighting some more. What if this eternal battle against the Emperor, and by extension the Imperium, could be the key to their survival and ultimate evolution? The perpetual war that defines the Ork existence could, in some twisted way, be the very thing that propels them forward as a species, pushing them toward an unknown future where they may, one day, become the galaxy's most dominant force. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Ork psyche is their capacity for adaptability. While their nature and instincts are primarily driven by simple desires for violence and dominance, they are also capable of remarkable ingenuity, even though their intelligence may not be considered on par with other species like humans or Eldar. This ingenuity, however, is not a product of advanced education or formal knowledge. Instead, it comes from an instinctive ability to understand the world around them and adapt to their environment in ways that might seem nonsensical to any outside observer. The Ork's ability to make things work, no matter how crude or seemingly random, is fueled by an almost boundless belief in their own capabilities, amplified by the Waaagh. Through this belief, they have managed to create weapons, vehicles, and machines far beyond what would be considered possible for a race as chaotic and unorganized as them. This adaptability, this constant trial and error that leads to success, no matter how improbable, is something that could become a key part of their future evolution. If the Orks continue their relentless pursuit of war, their weapons and tactics evolving with each new battle, there is a distinct possibility that their future could involve a rapid leap in their technological prowess, albeit in a bizarre and unpredictable direction. The Emperor, with his unyielding drive to conquer the galaxy and preserve humanity, may have inadvertently given the Orks the tools they need to evolve into a force that could rival even the Imperium itself. The Orks may eventually develop technology that could challenge even the most advanced of human creations, albeit in their own chaotic, brutal way, and in the process, the Orks might evolve into something more than just a horde of rampaging, war-obsessed aliens. But it is not just the Orks' ability to adapt and evolve that might make them a future threat to the galaxy. It is their sheer unpredictability. The Emperor's long-lasting influence through his psychic power and his continued presence in the galaxy creates an environment where the Orks' chaotic nature is constantly fed and amplified. The Waaagh grows stronger as more Orks are drawn to the battlefields, and this psychic energy, which flows through their very being, connects them not only to each other but also to the greater forces of the galaxy. The Emperor himself, in his eternal struggle to keep the Imperium intact, may have created an environment in which the Orks' seemingly random actions can have a far-reaching impact on the fate of the galaxy itself. It is often said that in the grim-dark universe of Warhammer 40K, there is no such thing as absolute victory, only endless struggle. And in this eternal cycle of war and conflict, the Emperor and the Orks are bound together in a way that neither can escape. The Emperor's will to protect humanity and the Orks' endless thirst for battle create a situation where neither side can ever truly triumph over the other. But this stalemate, this unending clash, might just be the very thing that allows the Orks to grow stronger over time. The Emperor's own unyielding pursuit of victory is the fuel that feeds the Orks' need to fight and adapt. Without him, without the ongoing war between them, the Orks would lack the focus, the drive, and the purpose that currently defines their existence. In this sense, the Emperor may have created his own worst enemy. As much as the Imperium strives to wipe out the Ork threat, the Orks, through their unrelenting nature and their connection to the Emperor, are a constant and necessary reminder of what humanity stands against. It is the struggle between these two forces, the Emperor's desire for order and the Orks' chaotic drive for destruction, that ensures the survival of both. And in the long run, this unending war could serve as the crucible in which the Orks evolve into something greater, something far more powerful than even the Emperor might have imagined. The very essence of the Orks' existence, fueled by war, driven by belief, and propelled by their unshakable connection to the Emperor, could one day lead them to become a force that is not just a threat to the Imperium, but a force capable of reshaping the galaxy itself. There is also the question of whether the Emperor truly understands the magnitude of his influence on the Orks. After all, the Emperor is not a being concerned with the intricacies of Ork culture. His focus is primarily on humanity, on preserving the human race from the countless threats that seek to destroy it. The Emperor's conflict with the Orks is one of survival, one of preventing their rampaging hordes from overtaking the Imperium. However, in his efforts to maintain this constant struggle, he may have inadvertently fostered an environment in which the Orks can thrive, evolve, and grow stronger. If the Emperor's ultimate goal is to preserve humanity, he may not fully grasp that his endless battle against the Orks has, over time, made them a more formidable adversary, one that could challenge the Imperium in ways he never intended. The truth is, the Orks' connection to the Emperor is not one of simple opposition. It is a bond forged through war, belief, and psychic power. They are not just enemies in a traditional sense. They are reflections of each other, two sides of the same coin. The Emperor represents the pinnacle of human strength, while the Orks represent the raw, unfiltered potential for destruction that lies within all living things. Together, they form the ultimate balance of power in the galaxy, a balance that neither can truly tip in their favor. The Emperor's role in shaping the Orks' evolution and culture is not one of design, but of unintended consequence, a force that will continue to shape the future of the galaxy long after his time. As the Orks continue their endless war, their influence will only grow stronger, and their potential for evolution will only increase. The Emperor may have created the Orks, but in doing so he may have also ensured that they would never truly be defeated. The Orks will continue to evolve, adapt, and grow, and one day they might become more than just a horde of rampaging invaders. The Orks' future is one of limitless possibility, fueled by the unshakable belief in their own strength and the ever-present influence of the Emperor. And while the Emperor may never fully understand the Orks' reverence for him, it is clear that, whether he likes it or not, his legacy is forever intertwined with theirs. The Orks and the Emperor share a relationship so intricate and multifaceted that it can be difficult to fully comprehend the depth of the connection between them. The Emperor is often seen as the perfect representative of humanity's striving for order, protection, and survival, while the Orks are chaotic, anarchic forces that know only the thrill of destruction and the endless pursuit of conflict. Yet, despite this vast difference in goals and methods, the Orks' respect for the Emperor, however strange and complex, transcends mere admiration for a powerful opponent. It is a bond that ties them together in a dance of destruction and creation, of respect and rivalry, and one that will likely endure for as long as the galaxy remains in turmoil. One of the most perplexing aspects of this relationship is the fact that, despite their violence and opposition to all things structured or ordered, Orks seem to be drawn to the Emperor in a way that mirrors how other races might revere their gods or great leaders. The Emperor, in their eyes, is a being of immeasurable strength, a force whose mere existence seems to command their respect. But why do the Orks, whose minds are driven by a primal need for war and destruction, perceive the Emperor in such a way? This is where the true mystery lies, for the Orks' reverence for the Emperor goes beyond simple admiration for strength. It is rooted in their very essence, their psychic link to the universe, and their unwavering belief in the power of their actions. The Waaagh, the unique psychic field that Orks generate, plays an essential role in this connection. It is not just a force of destruction, but also a force of creation, one that shapes the Orks' understanding of the galaxy and their place within it. The Waaagh amplifies their belief in their own strength, and this belief, when directed toward a figure like the Emperor, transforms them into something more than just a race of rampaging warriors. The Orks' belief in the Emperor is not a passive reverence. It is an active, dynamic force that fuels their endless cycles of war and conflict. As long as they fight against the Emperor and his forces, their belief in him continues to grow, feeding their ever-expanding desire for battle and conquest. The Emperor, despite his desire to preserve order and protect humanity, may have unwittingly created the perfect antagonist for himself. By standing in direct opposition to the Orks' anarchic nature, he has become, in the eyes of the Orks, the ultimate war boss, the one they must challenge to prove their strength. The Emperor's very existence as a leader of the Imperium, a force that seeks to unify and protect humanity through control and discipline, stands in direct contrast to the Orks' love for chaos and destruction. However, this opposition is not one of simple enmity. To the Orks, the Emperor represents a worthy opponent, someone who embodies the qualities they value most: strength, power, and dominance. This admiration for the Emperor as the ultimate war boss also has deeper implications for the Orks' society. Orks live by a simple rule: the strongest lead. Their entire culture is built upon the idea that power and strength are the most important qualities a leader can possess. Ork war bosses rise to power by proving their superiority through battle, by defeating rivals and dominating their mobs. The Emperor, with his unmatched strength, is the pinnacle of this ideology, a figure who not only commands respect because of his power, but also because of his role as a unifier of mankind. While the Orks themselves lack any cohesive societal structure, they understand the concept of unity through strength. The Emperor, in their eyes, is the greatest embodiment of this principle, a being whose very existence is a testament to the raw power that defines their own culture. Yet, the Emperor's creation of the Orks, their very existence as a result of his genetic experiments, adds an additional layer of complexity to their relationship. While the Emperor's intention was likely never to create a race of rampaging, destructive warriors, the fact remains that the Orks are, in some way, a product of his design. Their strength, resilience, and love for conflict are the direct result of the Emperor's manipulation of genetics and his desire to create perfect soldiers for humanity. In this sense, the Orks may see themselves as an unintended yet essential part of the Emperor's grand plan. They may not have been the Emperor's intended creation, but in their chaotic, violent nature, they embody the kind of destructive potential that the Emperor sought to harness in the first place, albeit in a warped, unpredictable form. This connection to the Emperor, therefore, has a dual nature. The Orks respect the Emperor for his strength, his leadership, and his role in shaping the galaxy, but they also resent him for creating a race that would become the perfect adversary to humanity. In this sense, the Emperor has become the focal point of Ork existence, a symbol of everything they both admire and wish to destroy. The Emperor represents the ultimate war boss, but he is also the one who stands between the Orks and their desire to conquer the galaxy. The endless struggle between the Emperor's Imperium and the Orks is not just a battle for survival or dominance, it is a battle for the very soul of the galaxy, a fight that reflects the eternal clash between order and chaos, between strength and destruction. For the Orks, this eternal struggle against the Emperor is not just about physical conflict, it is about proving their worth. To defeat the Emperor would be to prove that they are the greatest, that their strength is unmatched, and that their power has finally surpassed that of the ultimate war boss. In this way, the Orks' relationship with the Emperor becomes more than just a simple desire for conquest. It becomes a quest for validation, a drive to prove that they are worthy of ruling the galaxy. The Emperor represents the ultimate test of strength, the final hurdle that the Orks must overcome to achieve their ultimate goal of total domination. This dynamic creates a unique and almost tragic paradox for the Orks. While they admire the Emperor for his power, they also seek to defeat him, to surpass him, and to prove that they are the ultimate force in the galaxy. The Emperor, in turn, is locked in a constant battle against the Orks, forever fighting to preserve humanity and to maintain order against the forces of chaos. Neither side can ever truly win, not in the traditional sense. The Orks will never stop fighting, and the Emperor will never stop defending humanity. The struggle between them is endless, a cycle of destruction and creation that defines the grim-dark universe they inhabit. This paradoxical relationship between the Orks and the Emperor is a reflection of the broader themes of Warhammer 40k. The eternal struggle between order and chaos, between creation and destruction, and between the forces that shape the galaxy and the creatures that inhabit it. The Orks, in their endless war against the Emperor, embody the very essence of chaos and destruction. The Emperor, in his unyielding defense of humanity, represents the forces of order and control, and in the spaces between these two extremes, the fate of the galaxy is written. For all the Orks' chaos and madness, their reverence for the Emperor remains a key part of their identity. It is a respect born not out of understanding, but out of a shared belief in the power of strength and dominance. The Emperor is the ultimate war boss, the greatest leader, and the one the Orks must always challenge in their endless pursuit of war. Whether they recognize it or not, the Emperor's influence on the Orks is profound, shaping their culture, their beliefs, and their destiny in ways that neither side can fully comprehend. As we delve deeper into the relationship between the Emperor and the Orks, it's impossible to ignore the role that their battle plays in shaping the very fate of the galaxy. The Emperor, as the cornerstone of human civilization and the guardian of mankind's future, represents a force of unity and order, wielding immeasurable psychic power to safeguard humanity from the countless horrors that lurk in the dark corners of the galaxy. In stark contrast, the Orks are a force of untamed chaos, existing only to destroy, conquer, and revel in the joys of conflict. And yet, this battle between the Emperor and the Orks is not a simple clash of good versus evil or civilization versus barbarism. It is a reflection of something far deeper, something that goes beyond mere mortal comprehension. It is a conflict rooted in the fundamental forces of the universe, a cosmic struggle that spans time and space. To truly understand the enduring nature of this battle, one must first look at the very nature of the Emperor's existence. The Emperor is not just a man, not merely the ruler of the Imperium. He is a being whose very essence embodies the concept of order, of unity, and of the preservation of life in the face of overwhelming darkness. His purpose is to bring order to the galaxy, to push back the tides of destruction, and to protect humanity from the forces that would see it extinguished. His psychic power is immense, capable of reshaping reality itself, and his will is absolute. He is a godlike figure, a being whose influence extends across the stars, and whose very presence shapes the course of human history. In contrast, the Orks represent the complete opposite of the Emperor's ideals. They are not concerned with unity, nor do they have any grand plan for the future of the galaxy. The Orks live for the thrill of battle, for the simple joy of fighting, smashing, and conquering. They do not seek to preserve life, nor do they care for any form of order. Instead, they embrace the chaos that surrounds them, finding purpose in destruction and delight in their endless wars. To the Orks, the galaxy is a battleground, and they are its most enthusiastic participants. They fight because it is in their nature, because it is what they are born to do. But despite their differences, the Emperor and the Orks are inextricably linked. The Emperor's role in creating the Orks, whether intentional or not, is a pivotal one. The Orks are a product of his genetic experiments, the unintended consequence of his quest to create the perfect soldiers. While the Emperor sought to create an army of superhuman warriors to protect humanity, his genetic manipulation led to the birth of the Orks, a race of incredibly resilient and destructive beings whose only purpose is to fight. The Orks are a direct reflection of the Emperor's own ambition and desire for strength, albeit twisted into something chaotic and uncontrollable. In the Ork mind, the Emperor represents the ultimate war boss, the greatest leader in the galaxy, someone whose power and strength demand respect. The Orks may not understand the Emperor's true purpose, nor do they care for the finer details of his grand vision, but they recognize his strength, his ability to command legions of soldiers, and his capacity to unite vast swathes of humanity under his banner. The Emperor's very existence embodies the qualities that the Orks value most: strength, power, and the ability to crush one's enemies. In this sense, the Emperor is both a symbol of what the Orks strive to be and a figure to be challenged in battle. The Orks' admiration for the Emperor, however, is not one of blind reverence. For the Orks, respect is earned through strength, not through authority or ideology. They do not care about noble ideals or lofty goals. They care only about who is the strongest. The Emperor, by his very nature, is a worthy opponent because he embodies that strength. But the Orks do not simply want to admire him from afar. They want to challenge him. They want to test their might against his, to prove that they are the strongest and that they can conquer the Emperor just as they have conquered countless worlds before. In this sense, the Emperor represents the ultimate adversary for the Orks, someone who challenges them to be better, to fight harder, and to grow stronger. This desire to defeat the Emperor is not just about the pursuit of power. It is also about the Orks' deep-rooted need to validate their own existence. The Orks are not a race driven by a sense of purpose in the same way that humanity is. They do not have a long-term vision for the future or a desire to build something greater than themselves. Instead, their entire existence is based on the thrill of battle and the quest to prove their strength. If the Emperor represents the pinnacle of power and leadership, then defeating him would be the ultimate proof that the Orks have achieved their goal. It would validate their way of life, their endless pursuit of war, and their belief in the power of strength. For the Orks, the Emperor is not just an obstacle to overcome, he is the ultimate test of their worth. The Emperor's role in the Ork psyche is not limited to being a figure of admiration or rivalry. He is also a central figure in the Orks' understanding of the galaxy itself. The Emperor represents order, unity, and the preservation of life, while the Orks embody chaos, destruction, and the relentless drive to break down anything in their path. This eternal struggle between the forces of order and chaos is a fundamental part of the universe in which the Orks and the Emperor exist. The Orks' constant war with the Emperor's Imperium is not just about two forces fighting for dominance. It is about the ongoing tension between these two opposing forces that shape the very fabric of reality. Without the Emperor and his Imperium, the Orks would have no meaningful opposition, and their wars would lose their purpose. Without the Orks, the Emperor's Imperium would lose the driving force that pushes it to defend humanity and ensure its survival. The conflict between them is a delicate balance, a cosmic tug-of-war that keeps both forces in motion. This ongoing battle between the Emperor and the Orks is not one that can ever be truly won. The Orks will never stop fighting, and the Emperor will never stop defending humanity. Their war is eternal, a cycle that will continue for as long as the galaxy remains in turmoil. In this sense, the Emperor and the Orks are two sides of the same coin, forever locked in a struggle that neither side can fully dominate. The Emperor, in his unyielding desire to protect humanity, has created a race that is destined to challenge him forever. And the Orks, in their relentless drive to prove their strength, have found in the Emperor the perfect opponent, the ultimate test of their power. The Emperor may never fully understand the impact he has had on the Orks, nor will he ever truly comprehend why they revere him in the way they do. But the fact remains that, despite their differences, the Orks and the Emperor are bound together in a struggle that defines the fate of the galaxy. The Orks' chaotic nature and their love for destruction may stand in direct opposition to the Emperor's ideals of order and unity. But this conflict is what gives both sides meaning. The Orks' endless war against the Emperor is not just about conquest or domination. It is about the struggle to prove their worth, to test their strength against the ultimate war boss. And in this eternal battle, the Emperor and the Orks will continue to shape the fate of the galaxy, their destinies forever intertwined. If you want to continue exploring the strange and unexpected connections in the Warhammer 40K universe, be sure to subscribe to the channel. There's always more to discover in the grimdark world where everything, no matter how bizarre, has its place.